Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar this afternoon, which is all about empowering your staff to grow your business. So I just want to do a bit of a sound check, just want to make sure. Alison, are you on board with me in this live webinar?
Yes, I am. Sorry for the delay. I'm here, all ready to go.
You scared me a little bit then, but that is the joy of the situation that we're in right now in this crazy world we live in this pandemic. But we are going to do a very, very best to give you a very exciting webinar today because, what is it? It is a bit difficult at the moment with the situation we're in, especially here in Victoria, and our hearts really go out to the guys up there in New South Wales. It just seems to be getting worse, not better. But business has got to move on, and we've got to stay focused. Okay, so this webinar today is all about, as I said, empowering your staff to grow your business, which is really, really important. What we're going to go through today is understand the value of succession planning. So how do we set up someone for success in our company or organisation? How to identify emerging leaders within your business, because I think that's a thing of today that we see a lot of things go right in this area, and we also see a lot of mistakes that are made by not identifying those leaders, and then unfortunately they leave the business before and the owner doesn't want them to leave the business, but it's all a bit too late. How to train up an emerging leader for future development, how to be assertive for better communication, and just understanding the importance of teaching good business acumen to staff that you identify in your business. In actual fact, I think all businesses of today, given the fact that we're in this pandemic, one of the big things I've been working on with a lot of companies, and I know you too have, Alison, as well, is just teaching people a bit more understanding how business operates and what is good business acumen. Okay, all right. So you have two wonderful people here that are going to take you through this webinar. There's myself, I'm the Director of Key Business Advisors, Colin Wilson, and I've got Alison Fletcher, who is one of our wonderful HR consultant team leaders of the business. Say hello, Alison. I know you did before, but say hello again.
Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Or is it really Happy Monday? I'm not sure, but happy Monday.
Every day feels like a Wednesday at the moment, even Saturdays and Sundays, but that's what the world we live in. Okay, just a bit of housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded. For those who have registered for the webinar, will receive a copy. Sorry, who are not on the webinar, will receive a copy of the webinar. Also, within 48 hours, you could go to our website and you could actually look at this webinar and download a copy yourself, along with the other 60 odd webinars we've got on our website that we've done in the past. Okay, just something that we're all about, and this is all about, I guess you could say, helping a company get its processes right from a motivational point of view. But everything we do in our business is all about our mission, is to take business from good to great. And that's a language, it's a common language we use in our company. So when we're doing work for our clients, have we helped them, their business, get to that next level? And that's a big thing for us. And our purpose is to take our customers on a journey to help them improve their business through all aspects of employee engagement and performance. So when we're looking at building a future leader in a company, one of the things that we really want to see is they truly believe in your company's mission and purpose, even vision and values as well. And that's something that Alison, you and I have seen over this crazy time of this pandemic, that the organisations out there that are really good at this have had staff that have stayed with that business and moved through that business during the pandemic, and less disruption. Would that be a fair comment?
Oh, it's so true. I think, and the more prepared the business is with their training programs, etc., the more stable the workforce has been, which was critical, especially for the last 18 months. So many employees have decided to make life changes for whatever reason it might be, and so that the more stable your workforce is, the better off for the business anyway, especially during these testing times as well.
Yep, that's for sure. Okay, some things that we specialise in, the 4 key areas: business strategy and growth, people and culture, HR advice and support, and sales training and customer service training. So I think, look, all these are part services that we offer out there to many of our clients, and we value all of our clients who use our services. Okay, so my first topic in today's webinar is pretty straightforward. It's understanding the value of succession planning. So let me just take you through some of the key points of this. So first of all, what is succession planning? So when we talk to business owners and we have conversations around what's your strategy for succession planning, sometimes we get a bit of a pale look. So succession planning is all about identifying new talent who can replace current leaders when they decide to leave or retire. All right, so and this is a succession plan is all about being what I call proactive. It is also about developing these future leaders to prepare them so they are ready to step up and take over for when that time is right. And for me, the big one is when we see this, good companies that invest in succession planning, especially family businesses who pass down the company range from one generation to another. You know, there are good companies out there that do this, but family businesses, and we do look after a lot of family businesses where, you know, they are putting some good succession planning in, especially if their kids are coming into the business. We have one in particular, Alison, that we're working with, where the kids have got to work in the business for a certain time before they can even have a say in the business, which I think is absolutely fantastic, that we're working with. But we commonly see companies out there that that start the process of planning, that succession planning, and it's done through like performance appraisals and identifying that, and then but it's the execution of following through is most important. Is there anything you want to add to that, Alison?
No, I think that's a good point. Is just especially with the family businesses, it's great that owners want their children or their grandkids, whatever, to come into the business, but they also need to earn their stripes, so to speak. So it's everybody needs to be mindful that you need to employ the right person for the role. So regardless of your relationship with the business owners or whatever it might be.
Yep, perfect. Okay, so where do most companies fail in succession planning? Well, for me, the big thing that we see is they leave it too late, so it becomes a reactive situation rather than a proactive experience. And what I mean by that is that the company then hand selects the next person in line that may not be the best person for the role. So a really good example that I can give you is, we do a lot of work in the retail space, and the retail managers left. So they put the next best salesperson to be the manager. You're going to manage this business, and they're good at sales, but they're not good with people. And that's created a damage, if I can say, there. It puts the company in a bit of damage control. The company does not recognise or know that there is a future talent sitting right under their nose, and we've had a really good example of that. A company's asked us to go to market and recruit, and one of the applicants, Alison, applied for it within their own company, and I guess you could say that the manager of the business couldn't believe that person was sitting right under their nose. Do you want to elaborate on that a bit for us?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. And we often remind our clients, say, hey, have you considered having a look at internal before we go external for equipment, because you never know who could be sitting there. So this particular client had a team member who had all the skills that they were looking for, but he wasn't considered because he was in a different role and they didn't even ask the question. So they're very lucky that we found him, and he was successful in getting the position purely because of his skills. So he got it despite not being offered it internally. So
there were 4 people interviewed for that role, and he was the standout. So that was a really good, I could say, it's been a very good wake-up call for that particular business. So I think it's it's really important to get to know your staff, if I say that, and that's done through having good conversations. The company does not train their next leader properly, and then they leave. So we've seen it time and time again where we're going to set you up to become a manager or assistant manager, or we're going to a team leader, and then the person's not properly trained, and then what happens is they leave, and then this digs a deeper hole in the business where there's very little or no leadership in others, and we see that commonly, especially in small businesses. Now, in a large business, you've got multiple people, but in small business, you've got, I guess you could say, you need talented people because everyone bleeds into different roles within that business. So it's really important to make sure that as you're identifying, who's got that talent. The company goes to market and then looks for the next leader, which then could take up to 6 to 12 months to train them up and learn their systems. So we've seen this happen multiple times when a manager or someone's left a business, and then they've gone to market, they've found this person that's really good with people, but it took a long time for them to learn their systems. So during that process, part of the disengagement, if I could say, was the staff saying, well, we know our products and services and our systems better than this manager. So there was, that's taken a bit of time to turn that around. So these are common things that we see out there in businesses, and feel free, guys, to ask us a question along the way during this. There's a chat box or questions you can ask as we go through this webinar, because we like it to be interactive, and we'll answer any questions that are given to us. Our business is all about taking business from good to great, and that all comes from the concept of Jim Collins, good to great, and this thing around level 5 leadership model. So anyone who's done any type of training with us, or especially my How to Manage and Motivate training program that I run, one of the things we go through is just that level 5 leadership model that Jim Collins wrote. And the first thing is, when we employ a staff member, the first thing we want to make sure is we actually have a high capable of individual, right? So this person actually makes, productive contributors through talent, knowledge, skills, and good work habits. Now, we want that with all of our staff. So when we employ staff, we want them all to be a highly capable individual. But then what will happen is we also want to see people, and some will stand out more than others, contributing team member that contributes to individual capabilities to achievements of the group objectives and works effectively with others in setting group settings. So this particular person then is showing those good leadership signs, and we see it out there many times. I've had conversations with directors of companies. Oh, this person over here is going to be a future leader for us, and then I say to them, well, that's great, what have you done about it? Oh, I've had a conversation. And then later down the track, that person leaves and they get really, really disappointed because they haven't done anything about it. A competent manager, as you can see, organises people and resources towards effective and efficient pursuits of predetermined objectives of the company. Effective leader, and then we've got our executive leader, which is more at the higher end. So pretty much the whole concept of growing talent within your business. It's about identifying those people who want to grow and want to excel at their role. I also want to put out there that there's nothing wrong with somebody who just wants to come and do their job, do it properly, and go home. Not everyone has to be identified as a massive, has to be a leader within the business. There are many people out there that just love their job, come in, I want to do what I need to do, and then go home and be with my family. I don't, you don't have to put this pressure on everyone. I just want to make sure, and that'll also create, really good positivity within your business, because they know that this is what they want to do. Okay, so I hope we've been of a good education to you on our first topic. If I look at our next topic, which is topic 2, how to identify emerging leaders within your business, this is all about, well, okay, how do we identify, and then the next one is around how do we train them. Okay, so for me, identify the staff who are those high capable individuals that are a contributing team member that has talent. So what they're doing is they're showing you instantly leadership qualities. All right, so if we've got somebody in a company that's showing leadership qualities, can I say it doesn't have to be, it could be the person could be in the business only for 4 or 5 months. They're showing leadership qualities. Then you want to make sure you harness that and develop that person, because that's what motivation is all about. Ensure it is known in your company that your preferred option is to identify and promote within first. And what we mean by that is we would rather develop a manager within our own company rather than go out to market. So before you go to market for your next manager. So really have that concept in your business that this is what we need to do. And I can tell you as a business owner, we have 2 wonderful people, our team leaders, which is Alison and Maya, like they've been promoted within, and it's just working beautifully. Is that something you want to add to that, Alison?
Yeah, I was also going to say, I think it's important for business managers to listen to the team as well, because it's not just identifying staff who could be emerging leaders, but there might be some people who actually make comments throughout their tenure that want to be developed in certain areas as well. So it's really important to make note of those staff and to help them get to where they want to be as well, because you've already got them on board, so that you can help develop them a lot easier. But the risk in ignoring them is greater than trying to support them as well. So I think that's also important to note.
And that's that third point there. Identify your future leaders through having good conversations. Find out their ambitions. Because I think that's a big one. So get to know your staff, and again, to build good culture in a business, it's about getting to know your staff, find out what their ambitions are, find out what motivates them. That's all part of it. And as part of the performance review process, set some goals and objectives around helping them become an emerging leader within your company, right? So this is, and when all the training and the coaching we do around performance appraisals, Alison, one of the things we talk about is those goals and objectives. What is it you want to do within this role that's going to help you become more successful? There's a great opportunity to bring that in. Yeah. And then officially, and then again, once you do that, and someone wants to become that emerging leader within your business, then make it known. Officially make an announcement to all staff that is identified staff member or staff members. Because some companies we've done where they've done 4 or 5 people in one hit are being groomed as a future emerging leader within your company. So I just can't emphasize that enough of you putting that out there of identifying and having those conversations. Is that a fair comment, Alison?
Oh yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. If you don't have those strategies in place, it's a lot harder to follow through, even if you've had identified that you've got talent within your team. If you don't follow through the strategies, you're not going to get anywhere anyway. So
yep. And I can probably sit back and go, I'm a living, breathing example of this, because an organisation I work for, they put me in a senior role and they promised me that they would train me. And every 6 months I kept asking, when am I going to get this training? When am I going to get this training? When I get this training? And look, I think part of that process is where I am today is because that's how Key Business Advisor was formed, is because the training was promised, was never delivered. And it's important to make sure that that is what you put out there, isn't something you exit. Okay, so how to empower your emerging leaders. All right, so you can set some boundaries of what your emerging leader can do and not do. This is no different to a staff member, by the way, just to let you know, like you set some boundaries of what you can do, what you can't do. But again, if I'm identifying talent and I want to grow, then you want to put some boundaries around what they can do, because I've seen it where they've promoted someone as a emerging leader or assistant manager, and all of a sudden they think that's the green light to go and boss everyone around. So it's not. It's got to make sure that you do this properly. Make sure you put a timeline on what is expected of them and how they'll be trained. And again, I said we're working with a company at the moment, which is absolutely fantastic. Set up a development plan for them for the next 12 to 24 months. So they know what the journey is looking like for them to become an emerging leader in the organisation and to be groomed. Always ask for their input on how to improve a situation within your company. So, again, good culture, we do ask our teams, but if there's something in specific that's more managerial, then you want to ask your leaders, but then you might run it past that emerging leader as well, so they feel inclusive. I think it's really, really important. Set tasks up for them to take more ownership and responsibility, and then again, that recognition and praise. It goes a long way, doesn't it, Alison?
It does, and I think you hit the nail on the head before, is to set up a plan for them, and that helps to set them up to succeed rather than just to set them up to fail. Because without it, you're just kicking them off the deep end and hoping that they can swim. So,
I've got a question for you, Alison. What would you do if there's a manager or currently in a role that doesn't want the emerging leader there in fear of losing their job?
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, to me, it all comes back down to communication. Number one, communication is key, and we often say that in many of our webinars, and it's so true. You need to be able to explain to them that, well, it depends on how big the business is anyway, but obviously everybody needs to be able to have succession plans for their own for their own selves, not just for the business. So that manager might be able to escalate higher up the ladder. You don't know how large the organisation is, but if they're not, and even if they're not, it's helpful to have somebody else, because if they ever need to take time off, the emerging leader can help fill the gaps when they're absent, and it just needs to be a positive communication. And I'd just reassure them that, I mean, they've got that role at the time. Yeah, it comes back down to communication. I think that's probably key.
It does, and setting those expectations. And I would sit back and say that if I've got a manager in an organisation that doesn't want to groom somebody, then there might be a bit of a culture problem in that particular department. So just watch out for that.
I'd also ask them why they don't want, I'd also ask the manager why they don't want that person to excel and to develop, because that's effectively what they're doing as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, look, don't abuse the emerging leaders role either. You know, I think, you know, don't push them beyond their own capability. So what I call don't set them up to fail, and you brought that up before, Alison, or put them in a situation where they're invulnerable in front of their peers. And, you know, we've seen before in the past, this person's become a leader and they've just started, and all of a sudden the responsibility and expectations on them is massive.
Yeah.
Do not set expectations that they have to work harder and longer hours. And we've seen this before. And again, it does commonly happen in, I see it in the retail and hospitality sector, or you're now a leader. So my expectations is for you to do longer hours. And, you know, we've done many webinars around, you know, payroll, rostering, and making sure that you know, people are being paid fairly for the amount of work that they do. So, Alison, I'm going to get you to elaborate on that a little bit as well, if you wouldn't mind.
With being on a salary and being
yes,
a
being
leader,
on a salary, expected to do more hours because you're a leader.
Well, there is that expectation, and you know, the higher up the ladder people go, the higher the expectations are as well. But as long as the business is compensating you for those hours and that time, then that's all well and good. So I think, as we all know, the last couple of years, Fair Work have brought in some changes, because a lot of big organisations were found to be short paying. And a lot of those organisations weren't deliberately short paying. It was just they had staff on salary, and the expectation was that they were working so many hours. But when there was a boot test, a better off overall test done, Fair Work deemed that they'd been short paid compared to what they would have been earning had they been under the award. So it's all well and good to say you're on a salary. I think that just make sure that that salary does compensate for the hours. And, you know, I think it's also critical to make sure that the employee in that role, whatever that role is you set the expectations as well. So make sure they've got a clear position description that outlines what's expected of them and their responsibilities, and outline what your expectations are for the hours as well. So I think at Kiba, we're really lucky. We don't work excessive hours a lot, but when we are needed, we just muck in, so to speak, and we get it done, because that's what is expected of us as well. So, and we all know it's clear.
And I've got a good example. That's my next point. Don't give them responsibilities where they have to open and close the doors and not be paid for those extra responsibilities. And, you know, for an example, if I'm, you know, in the retail, the retail award, I might be a level 2 or level 2, being paid as a level 2, but the responsibilities of opening is a level 3. You know, so so making sure that you've got that covered as well, I think is really important. And if anyone's confused with that, please give us a buzz, and Alison or one of the HR team members will take you through how all that works. Ensure that they understand that if they don't lead by example, then this opportunity may also be revoked from them. So I think this goes back to the expectations of you know, the emerging leader's role, or the person you've identified to become a leader in your business. If they're not, which builds a culture, if they're not, if I use the word towing the line or doing what you want them to do, then, you know, you have the right to revoke that from them as well, which will probably end up in performance management conversation, probably not a good ending. But what you don't want is, you don't want a person coming on board, okay, you've identified as a leader, and they become a manager and sit behind a computer rather than get out there and do what's actually needed to be done within, you know, empowering others within a business. Okay, I hope that was informative of what we've just gone through. The next thing is around how to train up emerging leaders for future development. So I think this is really, really important. And I've got a good case study I'll talk about a bit later. But you know, I think this is part of one of my programs that I run for companies around. I have emerging leaders program, which is around the first part of it's around leading self. So an emerging leader decides that, you know, if I'm going to appoint somebody to become a leader within my business, one of the things they've really got to learn, which I think is a skill set, is assertive communication. Now, we would like everyone to have assertive communication in a company, but as a leader, it's expected that, you know, you've got to be more assertive with the, you know, the way that you communicate to everyone. Obviously focusing on achievements, and that's just not on themselves, that's within the company now. Their commitment to the team and the company. So, you know, that lead by example is a good example of what I'm talking about. So they're not the last in and first out, you know, they're committed to the team and the company. Project a professional image. So again, you know, that is about language used, make sure, you know, their dress code, all the things that you would expect of a leader to perform. I also want them to develop strategic thinking. So, you know, you're coming on as a part of a leader within our company. I'm going to value your input on how we can do things better and improve things. So I think we want them to do that. It'd be great for them to manage responses to situations. Now, again, for an example, a new emerging leader coming through probably need to learn that. But then as they're groomed, something comes their way. You know, they don't have to go to a manager and ask that manager for what do I do here? They've got the ability. So managing responses to a situation, it could be something as simple as, you know, a staff member comes in and says, how do I find this on our file? And then that person comes back and says, well, no, you need to go in and look first before you come to me, because I've had this conversation with you 3 or 4 times. Big one for me is that managing upwards. So, you know, so we don't have to, as a manager, go to somebody and say, what's going on here, what's going on there. You know, as you develop and groom that emerging leader, you want them to come to you and say, this is what I've done, this is what I'm doing, here's my preparation, what I'm doing with this or with that. And so they're actually taking control. So they're not being spoon-fed, if I can say that. And meeting expectations of the role, which includes some decision making. And the big one for me is that high resilience. So what I mean by resilience is, you know, they're mentally tough. You know, they don't, they don't give in too easily to situations that happen, you know, either on the way to work or during work or on the way to home work, that they're there to come in as a leader and help that business grow. Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Alison?
I agree so much with the resilience, and this just takes me back to a conversation we had last week. So there was a journal that we had read, and the author had said she was looking for grit, so people with grit. I think that's so important. But she defined grit as people with passion and resilience. So I think that, to me, that just resonated with most of what we do anyway. And you know, when you're looking for someone, you do want to have someone who's got the passion for the role, but they must have the resilience, especially when they're learning it, because it can be so overwhelming when you're learning something new. I mean, we're all human, we all get nervous. But if you've got someone who's resilient, they're going to be able to handle it a lot easier than someone with a lower level of resilience. So yeah, to me, that's key.
Yeah, 100%. And again, resilience is a big thing, because if I am seen as a leader and I give in too quickly, then others will follow, and that can be detriment to any organisation or a department, a team, if one of the leaders is not on song with what needs to happen for the business. Okay, the next thing we would work on is leading others. So you know, so first of all, it's about getting the mindset of, this is how I'm going to groom the leader, so they're leading themselves, and we start training them about how to lead others. So that's that building and maintaining relationships. So again, you know, what builds a great culture is people getting to know one another and learning more about that particular person. Motivating your team, so they've got to learn how to motivate their team. So if a manager or a director of a company says this is what we need to do, then they're 100% behind that, in empowering other team members to follow the process. I think they need to learn about performance management and how it works, because again, we've seen many times, and we've made a living on this. I'm just going to have a drink of water for Tick. Hang on, Tick. Sorry, we've made a living on this where a new manager has come on board, and then what's happened is they have no idea what performance management is, and they're only doing what they think is right, and then that then creates a big issue for the company. So I'm very much so that if I'm about to lead others, I need to understand how to manage people. I also need to understand what performance management is, that end-to-end process. I need to learn how to coach and mentor people rather than tell them, I think is really, really important. Focus on teamwork. We've got to focus on the right behaviours. So what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And I can give you a great example of that of a client where a emerging leader came up to me who became then a manager, and he says, no one respects me. And I said, why do you think that? He goes, I don't know. And then I just did a bit of asking, and one of the staff members said to me that he's a party animal. He writes himself off on a Friday night with us out of the pub, and he tells us everything, right? So it is important to make sure that they focus on the right behaviours. When I became a leader for the very first time, I was told that you can go out with your colleagues, but at 9 o'clock go home. Don't party on, because that's where danger happens. Identify and mitigate risk is a big thing, so they should be able to identify that. And they also should know how to have a conversation to mitigate risk. So if they see something that's not right, then they need to, try and deal with themselves, or if it's not within their capability, raise that to their manager or the company owner to mitigate risk. Consistent recognition, I think, is really important. And again, we don't want to recognise somebody for coming to work on time, because that's what they're paid to do. It's that going above and beyond and getting those standards right. And understand how to deal with the different personalities that there is. And we're a big provider of DISC personalities, where we have people who are dominant, people who are influential, people who have steadiness, people who are conscientious. So they need to know how to read people to get the best out. And the big one for me is understand what leadership is. So, I mean, we can Google it and we can learn all about it, but when we're developing an emerging leader, they've got to understand what it is, and they also need to behave like a leader, which is totally different than Googling something. So, Alison, is there anything you'd like to add to what I just talked about?
I think they're all really good points that we've got there, but I think also is just to outline what we say here is, managing your staff isn't, a once a year review or when there's issues. Managing is a daily thing. So to help them understand what to look out for and what conversations to be had, I think that's important as well.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. And then the third thing, I think what's important is learning how then to lead and manage a team. So you can see that, the program that I run is actually done over a 12-month process, once a quarter, where we're working on these topics. So I've got to learn how to lead and manage a team, and that's all about training development. So as I create an emerging leader within my company, I need to teach them more about business acumen. So understanding all parts of the business. Now, when I've gone and done training with younger people and talked about business acumen, not everyone's understood what it is, and it's all about how a company makes money and what it needs to do to stay in business. And most people think, if I can say this, that when they go and work for an employer, there is a big bank vault sitting behind the employer, but that's not the case, and especially not the case right now in the times that we're in with these pandemic situation that we're in, trying to work remotely, where we need to open up our doors and get going. So I think what's important is teaching about the key profit drivers of the company, of what creates the business, and then my biggest passion is that customer experience and creating that advocacy, because if we've got good customer experience, therefore, what happens is it creates, customers are the ones that keep coming back to your business, that keep you in business. So again, when we're building on an emerging leader, they got to lead a team to make sure that you're doing that. Working on the key profit drivers and making sure it's a good customer experience. I think it's important that they learn how to lead and manage change. Now, change management is a thing that we hear about, but if we need to do a right turn in our business, and right now, if you think about COVID, many companies have needed to pivot their business or create change. If you don't have everyone on board that's part of that, then what will happen is, you might find that staff disengage or leave. And we're about to pick up a client. I heard today that in one particular company, 10 staff walked out of their business last week. So you can just imagine what impact that's going to create on that particular company. Effective preparation communication. So we want them to now learn how to run a meeting and create some communication within the organisation. Adopt and support initiatives. So we adopt the sales. So it doesn't matter where you are in the business, even at the back end of the business, they need to learn the front end of the business of sales. And if they're at the front end of the business, and they need to learn the back end of the business, which is that support of admin. And also if there's service involved or installations or stuff like that, a good emerging leader's got to be a good all-rounder and understand how that whole business operates, which is that business acumen that I spoke about before. Problem solving and decision making, which we spoke about before, but we're getting even deeper now. So they're not taking responsibilities or issues to a manager. They've now got the confidence to actually do that. And then managing, facilitating meetings and training sessions. We start to, so rather than we throw them in on the deep end, we then start to introduce them into, okay, you can run this part of a training session, you can run this part of a training session, to the point where you don't have to be there anymore because they'll like actually come and do it. Inducting others, I think what is really, really good for an emerging leader coming through, we have a new starter coming on board, and we're going to make it your responsibility to induct this person throughout the organisation, which takes pressure off other managers and gives them an opportunity to actually start that process of leading. And then the big one I want to see is that leading with professionalism. So again, they're walking, breathing the brand of the business, their mission, vision, and values, and they're really helping with the culture of that business. Okay, Alison, I'm going to ask you, what would you like to elaborate on what we've just gone through?
What I was going to say with regards to all this is it's great to focus on the emerging people, but I don't think you need to underestimate the effect decisions can have on the rest of the team as well. So if you're not handling the emerging leader properly, then you need to be mindful with how that's going to affect the behaviours and the atmosphere around the rest of the team. So you need to focus on the whole team and make sure you don't just put all your eggs in the one basket with with all your efforts and energy into that one person or two people, whatever it might be. You need to be mindful of how your behaviours and actions affect the rest of the team as well. I think that's important to note there.
100%. I mean, when we coach and train somebody, we show them how it's done, and then we do it together, and then we sit back and observe and make sure that they're doing it the right way that we want them to do it. That's all part of training and developing somebody. So I agree with you 100%, Alison. It's about making sure that, are they singing from the same hymn book? I think is really, really important. And a really good example of positivity is get them involved with this is, and I think you get the whole team involved, but on where the direction of your business is going. But if you've got some up and coming talent, then maybe help them a little bit more to understand the reasons why you're doing what you need to do. So they're actually driving that same language to the rest of the team as well. I think is important. Okay, I hope you found that very, very useful, and we've had no questions yet, so we must be going okay. Topic 4 is about how to be assertive for better communication. So I think setting expectations of assertiveness. So as you develop your emerging leader, and again, I'm using an emerging leader as part of this presentation because we're actually putting an effort in to grow somebody to help us for the success of the business. But in many ways, it is, as you said, it's for everyone in your business. You want to make sure that you're developing everyone in your business, but you must focus on being more assertive with one another for mutual respect and understanding. So if I've got somebody who is, for an example, managing my staff or starting to come into that process, I want to make sure that we can have that bit more of a direct conversation. I don't want to find out things later down the track. I want to know now, because that's just reassuring. When you empower an emerging leader to lead, one of the things they must learn as a leader is to be very clear with their communication by being more assertive. Yeah, and that's things like if they're running a team, they might like a team meeting, they might say, well, you know, Alison, what did you get out of the meeting today? And what did you get out of the meeting today, Colin? And what did you get out of the meeting today, Eliza? Or Karina? And then what that's doing is you're reaffirming that they've got your message, and if they haven't, then be more assertive. No, this is exactly what I said, and this is what I want you to understand. So just raising the bar a little bit on if I use the word, on making sure that the staff understand where we want them to grow and go. Your emerging leader must develop an assertive style that acknowledges other team members and their point of view, and can communicate their disagreement rationally in an amicable manner. Now, I put that in because we've seen it when there's been an emerging leader that's come on board, and then the staff members disagreed with something, and then the emerging leader or manager has come over the top of that person and said, well, I'm the manager, and whether you like it or not, this is the way it is. And then that's created tension within the business. So a good leader will learn how to communicate, and where there's disagreement, they will work out a way that certainly doesn't create a bombshell for the organisation. And again, part of the process is, if they're not agreeing with somebody, then, you know, have they got the skills and the capability to say, look, let's have a conversation about this after the meeting, because I want to address that more with you on one-on-one. And again, that is part of training, and training on how to do it. And we've seen multiple times where things have gone from bad to worse because of a disagreement. Anything you want to add, Alison?
Yeah, on that, I think also they need to be able to, and we do, you're right, we see that time and time again. But the thing is, if you don't have that open and honest communication, then the staff aren't going to want to contribute any thoughts or ideas moving forward, because they're going to be shut down. So the whole purpose of being able to have that open and honest communication is having those healthy arguments or conflict in a healthy, safe environment, where, you know, not everyone has to agree to everything all the time, but if you shut them down, then they're never going to want to contribute in the future, and then you're never going to be able to have those healthy conflicts, and then you're not really working as a team. So it just snowballs all the way back down to the team's efficiency, and it's just gonna snowball out of control.
And we're constantly seeing some of our employer engagement surveys, you know, or cultural surveys that we run, where, you know, my voice is not heard, or people don't listen to me, and I don't bother in voicing my opinion, because nothing ever happens. Well, we constantly see that. So that I see that as disengagement. I also see that holding a business back from its own potential. So we want to encourage that, you know, people to have their say. And I think emotional intelligence tells us that if you've got a problem, put the problem in the middle of the table and get everyone to contribute on how to fix it, rather than to come up with a solution prior to going in there. I think it's important to collaborate. Which is my next one. It's the biggest thing that we've pushed, Alison, you and I, all the way through, and Maya, through our webinars we've run, is just that importance of communication, because we see it time and time again. The companies that got good communication, they're going okay at the moment with this pandemic. The companies that don't have good communication, they're all falling apart because there's disgruntled in the organisation. Communication is everything in a company, as it provides clear guidelines for everyone to follow, such as our company strategy, our budgets and KPIs, our targets of what we need to achieve, our company goals and objectives, the reasons why you do what you do, because we've got to explain that, team meetings and training sessions, customer expectations of what we need to do to meet them. We also need to talk about company and individual performance outcomes of what's needed within the company. And then obviously when we see that, it's that celebration of wins and recognition and praise. But a really good, you know, I've written an article that's been very, very popular about how to run a hybrid business, because we're no longer all in an office now. We're in an office, we're working from home, and right now in Sydney, you're all working from home, and Melbourne, 90% of us are working from home. So, we've got to make sure that we've got that communication going. So I'm going to get you to elaborate on this, Alison, because I know it's your number one thing.
Yes, it's huge. And I always speak communication is key. But and especially I think if we can just use the pandemic as an example, the last 18 months or whatever it is now, I've lost track. The more open those communication lines are, you actually allay everyone's fears. Everyone is on the same page. They know where the business is heading. And especially if you've got a good leader guiding the team, then it just helps calm everybody down. And it just really gets everyone to focus on what it is that they should be doing, and that's doing their work rather than worrying about the unknown. So to me, communication is always key. I spruik it, and then I spruik it some more.
You spruik it. Okay, beautiful.
Spruik it.
And look, I think it is without doubt 100%. Okay, you've got to laugh, don't you? The importance of managing upwards, right? So for me, for an emerging leader, and I think if you can get this happening with all of your staff, it's just perfect, right? But again, I always think that if somebody's an emerging leader that's doing it, everyone else will follow it as well. So managing upwards is all about taking ownership, right? So I'm in control of my role, my job, my position description, my roles and responsibilities. I'm taking ownership and I'm just managing upwards. Yeah, as I said before, in today's world, we want people in our companies that can manage upwards to us and tell us what's going on and what they're up to, rather than the other way around, because I just find that that's easier. And that they're actually 100%, doing the role that you want them to do. And again, if I've got staff working from home, then when they're managing upwards, and they're telling you this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm working on, then that's also massive reassurance as well. They must take responsibility for managing upwards and be more effective with their communication. So if they don't understand something, or you don't understand something, it's got to speak a language that everyone understands. One of the things I hate is acumens. When you go into a company and they start talking about these are their acumens in the company, right? So business acumen, not business acumens. Is that the right word, Alison? That's not acumens. It's when they short abbreviate a word.
Synonyms.
Yeah, no, that's not it. So they
acronyms. That's what you're saying.
I did say, yeah, that's right. I was right. Yeah, I was right. So I self-doubted myself. Too much COVID time on my hands. Here we go. This is all about team, being part of the leadership team to behave like a leader. They must follow your mission, company mission, vision, and values. They must have a sense of purpose of what the business is trying to achieve. Now, we've all gone through change in the last 6, 12 months. They need to understand what that purpose is, and they must take responsibility to support the business and lead the team as if they were a manager. So these are good qualities that we want to start to see in people, that they take that ownership. Okay, if we have a look, I'm going to elaborate on topic number 5, which is business acumen and teaching business acumen. So as I said before, many companies don't understand what business acumen is. And it's really interesting is when you're having a conversation in a performance counselling session about somebody underperforming, they really don't understand why the business is making that decision. And this is on poor performance, is because they're not contributing to what the company needs them to do, which is all about how a company makes money. It's about how the company performs on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly basis. And Alison, you brought that up before. You manage people every day, yeah?
Yeah.
It's about all the parts that move within the business as per your P&L, profit and loss. Now, I'm not a big fan of showing everyone, your P&L and how it works, but the more someone can understand things around revenue and how we make gross profit, I think is really, really important. Teaching your emerging leaders about business acumen of your business develops them to be a better leader, so they understand the reasons why. And again, I made the comment at the start about family businesses, because I tend to find that in family businesses they share more than what they would if it was another type of leader in the business. So I think, again, if you want to get the best out of your people, this is something that you need to do. Teach them the ropes of the business. This is how it all works: our people and culture, our sales and marketing, our products and services. Talk about the customer experience, why we do things like Google reviews and stuff like that. purchase of stock and write-offs. So again, I've seen it where they've given responsibility to somebody. We're going to let this guy have a crack at it, and he's ordered all this stock, and the owner's absolutely gone off his brains. Why did you order this stock for? Because the guy got a good deal, but he, didn't realise it just affected the client's or the director's cash flow by ordering probably 20 items too many. So so again, I'm laughing, but you just laughed, Alison. But we see this happen in companies. Understanding of them, what budgets and targets are all about, company expenses, cash flow, the risks, and things around, as I said, the profit and loss within the business. The more you can share and teach your staff about that, I believe the more they're going to get on board. If they love the company they work for and they're embedded into that business, then they're going to want to help contribute more to keep that company in business and to grow. And what you're looking at right now is, part of our leadership program is, we give plaques. So we really identify for people who have done our leadership program. And I've actually got someone on the webinar, Sarah Ryder, who's actually done this and then put some of her staff through this as well. So if anyone wants to know more about our Emerging Leaders program, that is definitely on our website that you can have a look at. But for me, the importance is we're identifying future leaders in our company and we're starting to groom them. Then, and it doesn't have to be one person. If you've got the talent, then you want to keep that talent within your business rather than them go to one of your competitors down the road. So by investing in them, then that's going to give you a much better outcome. Do you have any questions with the guys in the that are on the webinar? Any questions got for me, Sarah? I've got nothing. I've stage fright. Commonly we see, one of the things that we see, and the reason why I put this webinar together is we've seen it where good talent has left an organisation, and we've had a lot of questions about, well, they've left, and it's because of, in their mind, it's because I haven't paid them, they've gone for more money. But one of the conversations I have with many companies is staff members do a value equation. So the value equation is, am I being looked after? Am I being valued within the business? And by investing in your people and by grooming your people, they will stay more attached because you're doing something with them. So as per the whole concept of this webinar, if you've got talent within your business, make sure you're working with that talent to keep that talent in your business and keep them growing. If anyone wants to have any more conversations around this webinar, you can go onto our website through Calendly, and you can book a 15-minute free chat with me. Feel free to do that. Our next webinar is on the 13th of September, and this is all about the value of great customer service. I'll be hosting that webinar, so if you like what we've gone through today, please jump onto that webinar. And something that we've done in pivoting our business is we've created this online training these are our online training sessions we've got over the next 4 months, leading us right up to Christmas. We've got one on performance management, which is on the 8th of September. Grow More Sales, which is an online workshop, is on the 6th of October. People and Culture is on the 3rd of November, and then Getting Your Business Strategy happening on the 1st of December. So if you like what we've gone through, then please have a look at some of the other products and services. If you really love what we've gone through today, then don't forget to give us a Google review. That would be absolutely fantastic. We're at 48. I want to get to 50. So and give us some good feedback if you enjoyed the webinar. And if you didn't like the webinar, then please let us know. So on that, thank you very much for attending this webinar, and we are 100% on time. Thank you very much, Alison, as always, for being part of the webinar with me.
Pleasure, and stay safe, everybody.
Yeah, see ya.
Bye.